Um, but, I think that from the way that we have learned to do parenting, most children, their creativity is stolen by the way that we parent them. Because right from the early age, we introduce fear to children. We introduce we introduce self-doubt to children, and we steal their confidence and their ability to be creative, especially in this present day and time. I remember in one of my programs, I was it was about my book Confident Kids, and we were doing an activity where I was telling parents, okay, give the kids this activity to do by themselves, let them write it out, paste it where they can see and say the thing. And a parent came up and she said, oh, Dr. Vivian, that would be an avenue for them to just litter the whole house. And I'm like, okay, which is more important, that I'm strengthening my child's creativity, independence, or that my house is clean? Do you understand? So we're in an era where parents, are concerned about the peripheral things instead of focusing on the main thing. So when I define parenting, so I'm starting the conversation now. Let me start from what parenting is and what your responsibility as a parent is, right? So, God said, I'm a Christian. So God said, okay, look, he looks into the world and says, okay, there are a lot of problems in the world, and we need solution bearers. And I'm gonna send the solution bearer into the world, and I'm sending this solution bearer through you, the parent. So you're the vessel through which God brings this solution bearer. And your duty as a parent is to ensure that you understand the solution that your child is carrying, that you nurture that solution, and you let your child align. So our duty as parents is not necessarily about the education, the clothing, the big grammars. How you measure your purpose, your progress in parenting and your success in parenting is how aligned is my child to purpose. How much of what my child is carrying on the inside am I enabling them to bring out on the outside, right? So our children are solution bearers. Every child is born creative. It is left for us to know this, to nurture this, and to create an enabling environment that allows them to explore and bring out their creativity. We should have our visions and our goals right. What is important? What is your why? What kind of child do you want to raise, right? Yes, littering might be triggering for you, or might be something that you're not really okay with. But when it comes to the scheme of things, which one is more important? That my child is being expressive, that my child is bringing out the creativity in them, or that I have a clean and perfect house? And if the littering bothers you so much, why not teach them how to clean up after them, which is also a skill that they should grow up knowing, right? So let's start to think like that as parents in our journey of parenting, knowing that now my duty is to look at this child and to ask myself, what are the gifts that God has put inside this child? And how am I going to bring out these gifts, right? How do I parent in such a way that the gifts that my child is carrying inside will come out and will blossom and will be functional? And in the early years of parenting is when you have all the time. Parenting is by observation all the time. How do you know the gifts that God has put inside your child? Is by paying attention to their interests, to their passions, to the questions they're asking, to the things that they want. You cannot get tired. There is no one particular way of doing things. You cannot get tired. Pay attention to the child in front of you. That's what conscious parenting is about. Conscious parenting says, show up to the parenting relationship with your conscious self. As your conscious self, pay attention to the child in front of you. See who that child is and know how you need to show up to them and interact with them so that they can become their best self, right? When we talk about our own parents, we talk about how they forced us to do things. Most people will say, oh, I didn't want to read this course, but my parents said I must read this course. I didn't want to do this, but my parents said I must do this. And we go ahead to say how we will not do that to our kids. But somehow we're doing the same thing to our kids, but in a different way. So for instance, yes, we're not forcing our kids to become doctors and lawyers and all of that. But now we are flipping it. We're forcing our kids, you must code, you must dance ballet, you must do this. But it's the same thing. Are you really paying attention to if what you want your kids to do is actually something that they love, something that they're passionate about, something that they're interested in, right? Very, very important. Parent the child that is in front of you, not the idea of the child that you think you should have. So most times we have an idea of what a perfect child should be, or an idea of who we want our child to be, and then that will now determine how we show up to our children. And most times these kids may not meet your expectations, and then that's how you start having struggles, power tussles, and all of that. But if you pay attention to who the child in front of you is, you can show up as your best self for them, to support them. And there is no career that is useless if you are going to where God sent you. When we start to parent with purpose in mind, we will know that if God says this is who this child is, and I'm supporting this child to be who God says they are, then they must be successful. We put our logic first. We put our, physical senses first, but your child is a spirit. Your child is sent for a purpose, with a purpose, and that is how you should parent them. And when you're doing what God has told you to do, you have to relax, because there must be reward. There must be reward. There must be reward, right? So how do you raise a child who is creative and who is confident in who they are? Because a child cannot express the full extent of their creativity if they're not confident, right? A child cannot express the full extent of their creativity if they're not confident, if they don't believe in themselves, if they don't believe in their craft, if they don't believe that their ideas are worthy, right? And even when we come to creativity, there's a whole full spectrum of creativity. There are kids that, in their creativity, they are thinking, oh, I can be creating artwork with sand. And it's something that you haven't heard before, you haven't seen before, but that doesn't make it invalid, right? You're gonna say, okay, let's try that and see how it works. Let's see how it comes out. And you'll be amazed that, if you're able to believe in them, then they can believe in themselves and the ideas that God is putting in their minds. So number one is that you have to validate your child. You have to validate your child. You are your child's number one cheerleader, and you owe it to your child to believe in their ideas, no matter how stupid it looks. Even if you think that it's an idea that cannot fly, right? How you have that conversation is important. So don't dismiss an idea that a child brings to you and be like, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, so you can say something like, if you think that it's an idea that doesn't work or that wouldn't work, you can say something like, okay, let's look at this a little bit more. Let's do some research. Let's see how this will work. And trust me, children are very wise. If they get to that point where you're having a logical conversation with them and you're showing them why and why not this will not work, they would understand. But if you just dismiss them and shut them down, that is the beginning of them not believing in themselves. They start to doubt themselves. They start to doubt their ideas. And if that is happening with you, who should be their number one cheerleader, then imagine that they will carry that into their adulthood, where they now start to seek validation from people and start to think, oh, would people like this? Oh, is this idea valid? and all of that. So it's very important that we show up believing our children, right? And validating their ideas, no matter how stupid it is. If you think that the ideas are not okay, have a civil conversation to come to that conclusion that, okay, we cannot fly with this idea. Let's try something else. Let's tweak it and see if it works this other way. Or let's wait a little. This idea is too early to bet this idea, but be there for your child and believe in their ideas. Then secondly, you have to be very careful about the interactions that you have with your child, about the words that you speak. Most times we say things and we think that the things we said it and it just ends there. Children are very perceptive, sorry, and because they 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 are so dependent on how much that we believe in them. They take our words seriously. So be careful, the words that you use on your kids. Labeling, even being sarcastic, right? Sometimes we think it's a joke, you're being sarcastic, the child does something and then you make a joke about it and then you laugh. You might just laugh and it ends there, but that child, they might carry it for a long time and they might interpret it in a way that you may not even imagine, right? It can cause a child to shut down. And another thing about labeling is that sometimes the labels that we throw on our kids, they start to believe. So all these conversations about, are you stupid? Are you dumb? Can't you think? Can't you do things right? We say those things casually, but the more you say it, the more your child starts to believe them. So, your child can start thinking, oh, maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I can't do anything right. Maybe I'm always making mistakes. That's why they're also always calling me, stupid and stuff. And then they start to believe those labels. And when they start to believe those labels, it also starts to affect their self-belief, their self-worth, and how much they believe in themselves and in their crafts, right? And then finally, because I'm jumping into another conference in a few minutes, then finally, you must equip your kids to learn how to trash labels, right? So your child is not going to survive in isolation. They are going to meet other people. They are going to mingle with other people. They are going to go into the world, and they're going to meet people who don't understand their idea of creativity or don't understand what it means to be creative. They're going to share their ideas with people who do not believe in their ideas. And they're going to have friends who will not believe in their ideas. They're going to have classmates who will call them stupid. They're going to have classmates who will laugh at their craft or laugh at how passionate they are about the things that they believe in. So you need to teach your kids to learn how to trash those labels. And how do you teach your kids to learn how to trash labels? Is to give them a true identity, to help them know who they are, so that whatever is coming from the external, whatever people are saying from the outside, yes, they might think about it for a minute, but because they are grounded in their identity and they know who they are, and you're not also labeling them at home, it's easier for them to, not take those labels to heart, right? And affirmations are also one way to help your kids to trash labels. So, when somebody says something that hurts them, give them affirmations to affirm themselves, right? I know who I am. I know who God says I am. Get scriptures that, about God's promises, about what God says, who God says we are, and give it to them to turn it into affirmations for when they start to face negative self-talk based on maybe the labels that people are throwing at them. So teach them to trash labels. And in conclusion, just create an environment that supports who your child is. Just create an environment that validates your child's ideas and your child's dream. And then be that parent who is available to listen, to encourage, and to validate. Thank you so much for having me. don't know if anyone has a
Thank you.
question or
Thank
two.
you so, so
I
much.
can attend to that. You're welcome.
If you have questions, please type in the chat or please unmute. She's here now for a few more minutes, so please ask questions. Okay? Thank you. If you don't want to unmute yourself, you could just chat or you could raise your hand so I can unmute you. Okay? So while we wait for questions, Dr. Vivian, I know you have a devotional called the Confident Kids Devotional. Yes. So can
Yes.
you tell us about it?
Okay. In November, I think in October 2021, we launched the Confident Kids Devotional. And what inspired us to do that is because we realized, okay, I work with adults, right? I do a lot of work with parents and also do therapy for people who had childhood trauma, right? So in my work with adults, I realized that a lot of things that make adults feel less than worthy or hold them back from doing all that they can do are things that happen to them in their childhood, perceptions that they picked up from their childhood and how they were raised. And it's all directed at their confidence, their lack of self-belief and all of that. So we're like, okay, since we are teaching parents how to be there, be the parent that supports, your child's confidence, be the parent who is not introducing trauma and fear into your child's life. Let's also create something for the kids themselves, right? And so we came up with that devotional. It's a story devotional. So it uses relatable stories to teach children about their identity, to teach them how to speak up, how to stand for themselves, how to build resilience. And it also has conversation around things around age appropriate conversations around LGBT conversation, right? Because believe it or not, that's a need of the moment, right? It's becoming something that we need to address. So how do we address it, especially as Christians? How do we relate to this kind of people? What's our values around these kind of things? And what do we do if these people come to us with their ideas? So the Confident Kids devotional is a daily devotional, story devotional, affirmations, activities that helps your child build confidence and character and helps them to have these conversations as well. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so, so much.
you're
Thank you.
welcome.
So you can order the Confident Kids devotional online or offline.
Yeah,
It's based in Abuja.
yeah.
So if you're in Abuja, you could just go
Yeah,
pick
we
up.
have
If you're in
it's
Lagos,
worldwide. We have
okay, it's worldwide.
worldwide delivery, yes. So we can
Okay.
deliver anywhere you are. So if you're following me, I think on Instagram the link is in my bio and the details. You can just shoot a DM and we can.
Okay.
No, it's for someone is asking, is the devotional stable for all ages? It's for 6 to 12 year old. 6 to 12.
Okay.
That's the age bracket. Yes, 6 to 12.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think we have any questions. In
All
fact,
right.
some of the things I was going to ask, you've spoken about them already. So I think I'll just let you go
Okay.
while I go around on your point. So thank you so, so
All
much.
right. If
Thank you so
there's
much,
any
Dr. Vivian.
question, you can always send me a DM and I'll answer them. Okay, someone is
Okay.
asking, are you planning on doing something for teenagers? Yes, yes. So we're trying to make the devotional a progressive one. So we're starting with 6 to 12 year olds, and then we'll progress to teenagers and even adults. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's a very great initiative.
Thank
Okay. So
you.
thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Okay.
All right.
All
All
right. So
right.
let's allow you
Bye.
go for your next conference.
Thank you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's Dr. Vivian. So um, okay, so do you have so you have a question. So I'm just going to run through some of the points that she made, and some of the things that she has said are they are kind of what we've been talking about since the conference started. Pretty much the same thing, you know. Your child is a solution bearer. Your child is a solution bearer. That means your child carries a solution in them. So how do you want to nurture that solution to the parent? And the solution that they're carrying is it may not be what you think it is. I spoke about that in my own session. You can't force it. You can't force talent. You can't force it. So that talent, that gift, that ability that your child has, that things like, oh, is annoying you, is a solution to is a solution to the world. Okay, sorry, give me that. Okay, so while we wait for the next speaker, is there anyone that wants to say anything or talk about how this session relates to you? Talk about your child. If you want to do that, you can raise your hand and I can speak. Okay, if you want to do that. Okay, so as a parent, your child's greatest cheerleader. Like you see grown men and women who are telling you that they're doing all sorts just to get their parents' approval. That shows you how much your child needs your approval. Because as in nobody can take that fault. Like they are literally your child's greatest cheerleader. So you have to be conscious of things like that. But don't streamline the cheerleading. Don't let it be that you can only cheerlead in certain aspects and not in certain aspects. It becomes a problem. Just cheerlead them, lead them, encourage them. No matter how stupid the idea sounds, no matter how silly or how funny or how ridiculous. Sometimes my daughter comes to me with some questions or comments, and it's a struggle to not laugh, honestly. As in, that's how parenting is. Like, you really want to laugh, but you remember that if you laugh, you won't be validating what they're saying. So we need to learn to listen to them, like listen to them properly, listen to them as with a straight face, and don't let them feel like you're laughing at them. Because if you are laughing at them, what will happen in the world? Dr. Vivian said you also need to teach them because they're going to go out and meet people who will actually laugh at them. So you are trying to hide it. They'll meet people who will actually laugh at them. So you need to teach them, you need to equip them to pass all those labels, and then okay, well, what she means by labels is the kind of things that the child is believe. I say that, yeah, something like that. So you don't go around telling your child, oh, you're stupid, oh, you're an idiot, and they think that those things are not important. They are important, because when they even go out, they will hear what. So you don't give them labels, don't label them, and then more importantly, teach them how to pass through labels. You teach them how to do that by sorry, there's a word she used, affirmations. You need to affirm your child. So when you tell your child things like, oh, you're so intelligent, oh yeah, well, I tell my daughters that they're very pretty. I tell them that. So that, to me, that's an affirmation. Or you could tell them they're all sorts. There are lots that you can use, and it's positive words to your child. They're very important because no matter how creative your child is, if they are not confident in themselves, it will affect that creativity. No matter the solution your child is carrying, if they are not confident in themselves, if they are not confident enough to embrace the creativity, it may never come out. It may never come out. Don't let them be like me. I'm a professional bathroom singer.